Hey, it's Biddy Penny. Welcome to my channel. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to play with book pages and we're going to make all kinds of pockets and journaling cards for junk journals. And so I had this book. I'd used the cover of this book, and then I'm not familiar with it. I haven't read it. But I wanted to find out if it had explicit language or content in it. And so I did a little Google search, and it came up and said, nope, no explicit language or content. So this is a great thing to do. Like for me personally, I don't like to put that kind of stuff in my junk journals if I can avoid it. And I'm not going to sit there and read every page. So a Google search will give you an idea. And this one came up clean. So I was excited about that. If you have some that don't and you still want to use them, you can use them as painted pages or glue books, or, there's still ways that you can use the pages from those books. I just wanted a book that didn't have any of that because I'm not going to alter these pages too much. Today's project is really great for the Mojo menu. Like you could make a lot of foundations very easily here without decorating. So I'm going to give you lots of ideas. We're going to put these in journals. We're going to put them to work, and it's going to be really easy, great for beginners. So let's just jump into this. I typically make journals that are 8.5 by 11, either folded in half on the 11-inch side, which is kind of a standard journal, or I fold them vertically. These little pockets, I wanted to go into like the standard size. So I needed to tear or cut these down to where they would fit nicely on my page. So I decided 5 inches. And as you can tell, I'm just folding up the bottom to create a pocket. You can fold it as, high or as low as you want to. And this is that is the most simple idea, right? It's not rocket science. I'm sure you've thought of this before. But we're going to decorate some of these. We're going to put them in a journal. I'm going to make lots of bases here with you. And that's the thought that I had for like the Low Mojo menu. If you have Low Mojo, maybe you're not even really working on a journal right now, you could still take these ideas and kind of just create yourself bases and get started with that way the next time you have a journal that you're working on, you could easily take these and adjust them to fit into that journal. So I've made 2 little cards, a journaling card for each pocket, and I made 3 pockets, 3 journaling cards. Moving on to the next idea, I'm using 2 book pages here, and these are fun. I really like the way this turned out in the journal as well. Again, I'm just going to make sure that it'll actually fit in my journaling page. So I don't want it to be, any wider than probably 5 1/4. And then this book page, I'm going to make a pocket. So I did decide to go ahead and tear that down a little more. You can use a paper trimmer and actually measure things if that makes you happy. You can use your ruler to measure things, just whatever you like. I'm going to use a paper clip and kind of clip these together because I spent a total of 15 minutes getting all the bases that you're going to see for our projects done today. And, if you're not in the mood to decorate or finish these, if you just prep them the way that I'm doing here with you, then when you are ready and, maybe you need some decorations for your journal, at least you'll have your bases prepped and ready to go. So I just paper clipped, mine together. And then here I'm going ahead and cutting them down so that I'll know they'll fit on the page. Of course, with these ideas, you can make them work for any size journal that you're working on. I'm just making mine really standard so that I know it'll fit most of the journals that I make and work on. So with these With this one, you actually can get multiple pockets, which you'll see towards the end of the video when I show you how I actually glued this into a journal after it was decorated. But for now, we're just gonna paper clip these together so my pieces are together and I know how they go. Okay, so for this one, I was thinking about, what kind of journaling card I'd want to put in there, and toyed with some different things, but I just kind of liked this narrow and tall one. And I put these pieces off to the side that I had torn off. I didn't measure these. They're all relatively the same size. Again, if you're mass making, you might want to measure because then the decoration process can be more effortless and streamlined if you're mass making, but it's just not necessary. I'll tell you that I even saved some of the strips that I tore off today. Now here I'm just kind of playing around and folding this up, and I end up really liking this concept. And see, now I'm using those pieces that I tore off, and I'm actually going to use those as the journaling cards for this. And I'm showing you here that you could stitch. So I didn't do any sewing or stitching on any of my projects here today, but you totally could. Now, if you're going to make one of these, I do suggest that you go ahead and get the piece of paper torn down to, the width that you want, that it'll fit on your page before you fold. But it did end up working out here. I just had to fold this top piece down a little more. So tear your book page to the correct size first, and then you can make adjustments. You don't want those two pieces to overhang right there at all. You want a little bit of separation between the top fold and that bottom triangle fold. Okay, and I'm just checking it here, making sure everything looks good before I make two more. But let's do this together. I'm going to go ahead right straight off the bat and, tear this down to size, and then fold up my triangle, fold down the top. And I think that's the order you need to work in on this, so you know how far to fold down the top. So I think it's really good to go ahead and fold your bottom triangle first, like this, and then fold down the top. Now, what's cool about these is you can turn it this way, and it can go in a journal this way as well. And the card that we put in it ends up being the locking piece for the triangle. Don't worry, we're going to decorate some of these together. We're going to put them in the journal, and you're going to get to see these in action. Now, the next one, I just took book pages and folded them in half, and we're going to make two projects with this idea. And these are going to be journaling cards in the end, or envelopes. So here is what I've made so far. So let's finish assembling. I'm going to just glue on the folded edge that I'm folding up. You want to put your glue on that flap that you're folding up, and not on the larger section, because you may glue more than you need or less than you need. So just glue it right here on the part that you're folding up. Such a simple pocket, nothing complicated here. But I love the way that these turn out, and it's just a great way to use a book page. So in today's video, I used about 18 to 20 book pages, which is really, really great because, most of us have quite a few laying around. So here I'm doing the same thing. I'm only gluing that top flap that folds down. I'm gluing the two sides, and that's the only thing that needs to be glued on this one to get your foundation made. So I made a video last week, and I created a Mojo menu. The Mojo menu is for when you want to be in your craft room, but you're not feeling very creative. And I think that making a bunch of bases like this, it would be kind of the perfect thing to add to your menu. So here I accidentally glued these on the wrong side, but that really works out because it's always nice to have pockets that go different directions, right? So you need pockets for the right side of the page and the left side of the page. So there's really kind of no mistakes here. But speaking of the gluing, I'm going to put glue on just these top and bottom lines here. And then I'm going to take it and glue 3 sides and glue it down to that base book page layer. Now, of course, you could take these to your sewing machine and sew where I'm putting glue on all these projects today. You could most certainly sew them shut, but I wanted to show you what anybody can do because not everyone has sewing machines, but everyone likely has glue. So you can just glue them shut and they still turn out so beautiful depending on how you decorate them. So these are really cool. When I put this in my journal, you'll be surprised with how many pockets you get out of that project. So I took some time to fussy cut myself a couple of flowers. I grabbed some tickets from my stash, a random quote, and just different things that I had on my desk, different pieces of ephemera for decorating. And then I grabbed these photos. They're Sweet Pea Curiosities, digital, as well as some other scraps. So essentially, I grabbed some scraps and random bits and am going to decorate these pages. Now, depending on how you fold things, you will have, some of your text will be upside down, but that's easy to resolve and easy to cover up. So I'm just going to use a piece of, decorative paper here. And it's just that easy. And now you could reinforce that edge if you want to, but it's not always necessary. And then here, this is just that simple book page that I took and folded in half basically and made sure it would fit in my pocket as a journaling card. And I'm just decorating the front with this beautiful traveler. And then we have the inside, and here there's any number of things that you could do. You could grab scraps from your stash and put some little scraps in it. I chose to use some gesso. Gesso is a medium. This is an acrylic gesso, so it dries quickly. And but you could use white acrylic paint or a colored paint if you know what kind of color palette you might want to use. You could use that. Like I said, you could use notebook pages, scrap paper. You can do anything you want. You can just leave the book pages. But I did decide to put down just a little bit of gesso, and that way I have a journaling spot. Someone can write on this now that I've kind of knocked back that text a little bit. It becomes like a writing surface, essentially. Now, here I'm using a silicone brush, but you could also use, in the first 2 examples, I just use a flat, scraper. You could use a debit card, but an old gift card or something like that. I was just going to say, don't use a debit card on the internet. If you're on the internet, don't share your debit card. Plus, you probably don't want paint on it. But yeah, I love these silicone brushes. But here it is. I dried it with my dryer. And see, now you have a little journaling card. You can leave it plain like that or draw on some lines. I have some different, metallic pens in my stash and markers in my stash. The one thing I will say is if you choose to use an alcohol marker, be aware that whatever you draw on an old book page is going to show through. So I didn't have to worry about it with the pens that I chose today. This one's from Jane Davenport. It's part of her Tippy Toes collection. but you don't have to have this pen. It's just a felt marker that's metallic. I also get some from the Dollar Tree that I absolutely love, the Crafter Squares brand, and I'm going to use some in this video as well. Just use whatever you have. If you have Crayola markers, use those. Use a pen, use a pencil would even be really cool. Whatever you have, I just wanted to create a journaling spot. Moving on to the next piece here, the very flexible pocket, which can go at the top of your page, or you can turn it and put it at the bottom of your page. And again, I'm just kind of decorating this here with my scraps. I had a scrap that was a perfect size, and then I had this scrap, which the two pieces ended up being enough to cover two of these pockets. So I ended up getting two done all at once. That was great. So I bring in this other one and going ahead and make use of this. So in this video, I didn't really do much to this flap here, but again, you could use the gesso, you could use acrylic paint or anything on the inside to make that a journaling spot if you like. I kept the decoration of all these things really simple, and even with keeping it simple, I still love the outcome. It was really fun to sit down. I spent an hour and made these projects, and I enjoyed every bit of it. So now I've got these just pieces of paper. There's nothing to it. It's not folded. It's just a small piece of book page, which I wanted to turn into a journaling card because with these triangle pockets, your journaling card kind of becomes like a locking mechanism, if you will, which is really cool. Okay, I am going to fold down the top of this book page here, and that's going to create a hinge for me. And I'm going to hinge this photo to it. So I'm just kind of lining everything up, trimming down my top photo so it's roughly the same size as the book page. It doesn't have to be. It could be bigger. That wouldn't be a problem. But I wanted mine to be the same size. And I have that little bitty hinge that is from the book page. And I'm going to use that with a little bit of glue and glue my photo on top. And now I've created a card, a journaling card. Again, I'm going to bring in the gesso. And when you're putting gesso directly on your project, you may squeeze out more than you need. I did that many times, but it was okay because I had so many foundations already made. So this is that trifold that we'll tackle next. But I went ahead and used, my gesso to cover the inside of that trifold. So we'll have more journaling space. Gesso really isn't that expensive or anything, and I think it's a good investment for junk journalers because it basically creates a ground so that you can paint on top of it. And it has a lot of versatility. I find myself that I use it a lot in mixed media, and I use it a lot in this way as well. So I think it's well worth the investment. You can dry it with a heat gun if you don't want to wait around for it to dry. But if you're making a bunch of bases, like kind of what we're doing here today, it doesn't take that long to dry. It's kind of like an acrylic paint, so it dries pretty quickly. And you could just paint up a bunch of book pages if you wanted to. I like the way it makes it look aged, but you can still see that it's a book page. It's not completely opaque, and I like that. And see, when you slide it in that pocket, it kind of becomes like a locking mechanism for that flap, that triangle flap. So here I'm going to glue it directly into my book, and I'm just gluing along the edges there because it's going to also have another, I'm turning it into another pocket. So we have that top pocket for the journaling card, which locks that little triangle in place. But then also now, because the way I glued it onto my book page, it also has a pocket behind it. That journal is going to be coming back out more. Okay, up next, we have this one, which again is going to have multiple pockets by the time I'm done with it. I had fussy cut out this flower. These flowers are from Dreams Etc. And it's part of a digital kit called, I think it's called Easy Cuts flowers, and they are fabulous. It's a digital that I use again and again and again. And they are easy to cut. So I just had made myself some tickets recently. You'll see a video out on that later. And so I grabbed those and just kind of collaging a little bit. I still really want to see a lot of the book page here. And like I said today, I'm not really trying to disguise that. And here I'm going to decorate the little journaling card in here. And what I decided to do was I need to trim off the bottom edge. I left it on in case I wanted to hinge it. I'm going to trim off a little more over here on the right edge. And then what I'm going to do is take it, it's larger than my journaling card. I'm going to fold it over. And here, before you glue that edge down, which is what we're going to do, you could put down a piece of paper, if maybe you have some scraps and you think, okay, I want to cover up that book page, I want to make another journaling spot, you most certainly could. I'm not going to do that today, but you could do that. So I wanted to show it to you. I'm just going to put, I had this scrap of yellow cardstock off to the side. I'm going to put that down here on the book page, get some of my glue goobers off. And what I'm going to do is just glue this folded edge down on top of that book page. And we have like a little journaling book to go into our pocket. And I love the way it looks tucked into that pocket. It's just perfect. And then I had this Amazon package that I stamped on. I decided to cover that Amazon arrow with one of my tickets. And then I kept wanting to put something else on this little piece of paper. And up at the top of my desk, I had two little pieces of fabric. And I decided to take one of those. I just folded over, used my tiny attacher, and stapled that on like a tab. And then I just love the way that came together. I always like adding some fabric into my projects. So this is the last foundation that we made, but we're going to use it in two different ways. First one is a trifold journaling card. Again, I'm just going to use my scraps and decorate this a little bit. Don't mind the bird. It just keeps me on track. So I'm just collaging with my scraps and these little tickets onto this trifold. I went back and grabbed another image. These are from Sweet Pea Curiosities. I will find this digital and link it down below for you because I absolutely love it. It's like a traveling one. And I love digitals that look like, or are old photographs and things like that. I like to include them in my work. And I absolutely adore Sweet Pea Curiosities. So I will definitely leave Marisa's shop linked down below. Okay, we have a theme here. I'm going to fold down that edge, and that's going to be a hinge. So I only glue that little piece that I folded and glue that down onto this book page. And then we have this little flip out, again, a journaling spot. Someone can write on the back of that photograph. They could put a picture underneath it and it can flip down. And I just love that about it. The inside of this, again, has the gesso. And here I'm going to use the Crafter Square marker that I had mentioned previously. That's from the Dollar Tree. I absolutely love these. And I'm just using my ruler as a guide and making some ruled lines here for writing. More than anything, I think this indicates to someone like, oh, I can write on this page. Well, yes, you can. And it's easy to do, really easy to do. So now we have this trifold journaling card to tuck into our pockets. I don't know about you, but I tend to have a lot of pockets in my journals and I struggle with ways to fill them up. So I thought this video would be fun because it would help you come up with ideas for pockets, but then also ways to fill them up. And I definitely enjoyed working in this way where like I made a pocket and I also made something to put inside of it. Because if you're anything like me, I get to the decorating stage and I'll have my signature sewn in and my cover done and all these pockets, and then I feel so stuck because I'm like, now what do I put in my pockets? So I really like this this approach today of going ahead and making the things to put in the pockets when I make the pockets. So there's a trifold journaling card, and here is a very simple envelope. It's the same trifold, and depending on how you fold yours, then you can have the writing upright in two places here. But I did decide that I would just use my scraps and cover the flap of my envelope. You wouldn't have to do this necessarily, or you could cover that inside if the writing on the inside was bothersome for you. I understand my brain doesn't like things sideways, so I get it, or upside down. So you could have put that on the inside like that, but I still wanted it on the outside and to have a little decorative flap for my envelope. And I'm opting to not let the upside down script bother me, but you could cover it as well. Okay, so the front of the cover of our envelope is upside down. When you're folding your envelopes, play around a little bit and you'll be able to figure out how you want to do yours, because this didn't have to be upside down. But if it is, like mine, don't let it bother you. We can still make it beautiful. So I'm going to use, again, this was an Amazon package that I just used my stamps and stamped up. I'm going to use that. I have this old canceled stamp that I harvested from an envelope. And then I decided to bring in some vellum. I had a scrap of vellum, and I'm going to put it over where you would typically write an address. I'm still figuring that out at this point, and I'm lucky that I had left a little gap right here, because now I can flip that back and I'll be able to glue my vellum down. Vellum's tricky. You don't want to just put a bunch of wet glue on it because it'll show your lines. So it's nice to be able to hide your glue. So here on this edge, I'm just going to tuck it behind that edge and glue it down. So that'll secure one side of my vellum. And then I find that glue sticks don't show with vellum. So then I'm going to put some glue stick on the other side. And now my vellum is stuck to the front of my envelope. I just so happen to have this perfect stamp off to the side already on a block. So I'm going to use my Memento Tuxedo black ink. It's a dye ink. And I'm going to use a piece of paper. I'm going to cover the part that I don't want to stamp. And I'm just going to stamp on here and kind of make it look like a handwritten address. And that's it. I love the way this envelope came together. Now, anytime you're stamping on vellum, you got to let it dry, honey. It'll be wet for some time. You got to walk away. Go make yourself, stamp on some vellum and go make yourself a cup of coffee or tea or a snack, because it needs to dry. Okay, so you saw me glue this piece in. Well, this is my journal. Her name is Dusty Rose. It's my cowgirl journal, if you will. And we're going to take these other pieces and we're going to glue them in as well. But I wanted to show them to you first, just so you can see what we completed here today, give you ideas. Of course, these could be in any theme. And that's what's great. If you just sit down and make yourself a bunch of the foundations, as we'll call it, then later when you're working in a particular journal, you'll easily be able to decorate them to match your journal. So this is Dusty Rose, and it's my cowgirl journal. And I'm going to put some of these in here because I feel like they just match perfectly. So you saw me glue the other one at the top of the page, and I decided to glue one at the bottom of the page as well. There's probably 150, if not more, different ways to fold paper and to make, projects like this with book pages. I kept it very simple today, but I think it's very effective, and I hope it inspires you to get your book pages out. I'll tell you, it was a whole lot of fun. It was a really fun hour in my craft room of making these things, and I love how they fit in my Dusty Rose journal. Here I'm going to glue this down on 3 sides so that I have a nice pocket. And some of my glue lines I kind of put wide so I can make sure, just to reinforce it a little. But that one I glued at the top of my page. And that way I could put something underneath it because I really like tuck spots like this. So I put my trifold journaling card underneath there, and then I'm flipping through, and now I'm going to glue this one down, and this one I'm going to put actually towards the inner part of the page, right up there against the center fold of the paper. And I'm going to glue this one down, again kind of putting a good amount of glue. Your pockets can be as narrow or as tall as you want. I wanted to really secure my book pages down. And now I have a pocket here with our cute little book. I have a pocket there. And I also have another pocket behind that. So there's actually 3 pockets to this design. And I love the way it looks on my page. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. Thanks so much for spending your time with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.